Welcome into the latest edition of the second half draft show. I am your host, Juice, joined by Headley and Drew. Gentlemen, we got a big one coming up this weekend. But of course, before we get into that, we want to take a look back at previous week 6 in college football. Who were the studs? Who were the players of the week? Who's helped their draft stock? And then, of course, we have the Red River Rivalry. Red River
It's a lot of
Rivalry.
R's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Onomatopoeia out here. Alliteration.
Alliteration. It's that alliteration.
Really exciting game. It always is. It's always strange. It's always unpredictable. I think the only thing that you can really predict when it comes to Oklahoma, Texas is that it's going to be unpredictable. It's going to be a lot of momentum swings, usually quite a few points in that particular contest, certainly as of late. So let's start there. Let's start with Oklahoma v. Texas. Obviously, both teams have a significant number of NFL draft prospects. Oklahoma outlasts Texas. Dylan Gabriel proves to be too much for the Longhorns. The Longhorns, I believe, were ranked 3rd overall. So significant loss, but we're kind of anticipating perhaps a repeat in the championship game there for the Big 12. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I thought that Texas kind of started off slow, maybe coming out of the kind of stumbled out of the blocks with the turnovers. And in the second half, they kind of turned it around. I thought that, if I'm not mistaken, I heard that they were missing their center. And I think that may have been an issue for them consistently, especially in the first half. And then, they kind of got it together. And were able to make a comeback. And like you said, Oklahoma was just a little too much. You said it's Dylan Gabriel. Is that 2 last names or 2 first names? Yeah, it's 2 first names.
It's 2 first names, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Double
2 first names. Yeah, that's a former UCF out there. But I thought Oklahoma actually had a good game plan, both defensively and offensively. And I'm not sure that Texas was quite ready, especially, like I said, in that first half. But it was a good game. I expected one of them to at least pull away at some point. I didn't think it would go down to the last actual play. And what do we call it? We call it prevent defense. Prevent you from winning the football game. It took them, 4 plays to get down there, and it was over. I don't know what Texas was thinking, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, I thought Oklahoma was just opportunistic and Texas wasn't. You talked about the turnovers. Quinn Ewers had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions in the first 2 drives. Also had that fumble. And, Oklahoma, Texas, they had a chance to turn the ball over too. It just Texas couldn't get that turnover. So, I just thought Oklahoma was a lot more opportunistic than Texas. And then Oklahoma got the best of areas up front and the back end. I thought Oklahoma defense, the front end and the back end, I thought it worked well together, especially in that first half. I know Texas kind of turned it up in the second half, but I thought their defense did pretty good in the first half. And, your boy Jonathan Brooks, we say we're going to look at him for Texas, that running back, and he showed his versatility all through the game as a runner, as a pass catcher. He gets through the line very quickly, good blend of power, twitchiness, like his bursts and his cutting ability. That's kind of what stands out to me the most about Jonathan Brooks. I think he's the real deal. He's another name. He got to be in the top 5 running backs, man. I think he's worked his way up there, man, because a lot of these other running backs in the country, they're coming off the slow starts. Rocket Sanders, haven't heard about him this season. Trey Benson finally had a big game, but he came out slow. Blake Corum is going to do Blake Corum things, but, a lot of these running backs early on are struggling that we had in the top 5. Braylon Allen had struggled a little bit early, too, in that new offense in Wisconsin. So it's guys like Jonathan Brooks. We talked about Ray Davis last week for Kentucky. He's another guy that's working his way up the board. So, Jonathan Brooks, he looks like the real deal, Juice. You called him out last week. Saw him, had a big game here, even though they lost, but he had a big game. Danny Stutzman, the linebacker for Oklahoma, he's flying around, man. He just comes downhill. He makes plays. He turns the football over. Big-time linebacker there for Oklahoma. And we talked about Dylan Gabriel, man. He was just more poised, more calm than Ewers. He just kind of matriculated the ball down the field. Left-handed. Who am I talking about right here? Left-handed quarterback, number 8, got wheels and gets the ball out fast?
Talking about Steve Young?
I'm not gonna make the comparison, but
fancy his face. You see his face? That's that former Cowboy right there, y'all. Just so y'all know, former Cowboy fan.
Yeah, man. And Oklahoma played up tempo, man. I like the tempo that they played with, and like I said, they got away with some early mistakes. Texas couldn't turn the ball over, and Oklahoma did, man. I thought that was the difference in the game. And some other guys, Tavondre Sweat, monster, the big D tackle from Texas. And Jalen Ford, I thought he had a shaky game, the linebacker for Texas. He just couldn't get guys on the floor. You saw Gabriel kind of, did him in the middle of the field, got big yardage on the ground. And Ethan Downs, the edge from Oklahoma, and Jaleel Farouk, they're both juniors. They might not come out this year, but some names to watch for next year.
Venables got them boys playing. He got that ACC defense going, and that's the one thing we always talk about with the Big 12 is scout team out there. We just run around as 7-on-7 flag football, right? And he's kind of turning the corner, turning this thing into, we got to play. We play defense first, right?
Quickly. I remember they played no defense last year, bro.
Well, exactly, right? It was bad, man. They essentially had to go out there and basically say we got to outscore everybody every game. But this year, the defense is kind of coming into it's like I say, it's coming into its own, but it's starting to turn that corner. You're starting to see it. With the players that Headley had named, it was a fun watch. Real quick, you brought up somebody I wanted to talk about, and I forgot him that fast because I got memory problems.
Who that? Farouk?
No.
Let me get back in there while you're pulling that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Headley, you talked about Jonathan Brooks and the slow start for quite a few of the backs that we kind of had pegged as perhaps the leaders of the pack, the top 5 to 7 players. And of course, Brooks, given the opportunity to start, of course, it was Bijan, Roshan a season ago. We weren't familiar with Jonathan Brooks, right? And every time I watch him, you wonder, okay, it was blocked up really nice and he got a big gain. Okay, that one was kind of easy. But this game and in previous games, but certainly in this contest when we were really focused on him, you could see the lateral agility. You could see the burst that you mentioned. You could see the twitchiness, the ability to make guys miss. He runs behind his pads, but he also possesses that innate ability to make defenders miss, whether it be in close quarters or in the open field. And I agree with you. He certainly worked himself into that top 5-ish conversation among the running backs, particularly with guys across the country having slow starts. Travion Henderson hurt again. You know what I'm saying? We know how consistent Blake Corum is, and it really is a testament to Blake Corum because he's coming off of a significant injury and he's just right back to it. So I'm setting all my concerns, and he was never a huge concern in terms of his size because of his build, right? He's shorter, but obviously he's 200 plus, so or close to it. So I think he's put together well, but I do believe, particularly when back in the day when Hassan Haskins was out there, that Corum was still developing. You know what I'm saying? I think he's entering his man frame now. So less concerned about durability, and they're not necessarily putting 30, 35 carries on him this year. So I am encouraged by that. But the thing that stands out with respect to Brooks, and I think what scouts, area scouts, teams, organizations, front offices are going to like is the fact that he's not limited to a scheme.
Cool.
Right? I think Brooks could be your lone back 7 yards deep. You know what I mean? I think he could dot the I, and I also think he can play in that shotgun with that inside zone. You know what I'm saying, from the gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where some scheme in which a guy like Braylon Allen, whom we love, he struggles. That's not his thing. You want to give him an opportunity to see what's in front of him, press the hole, and then do his thing. Right? He's not quite as effective in the gun. And there's a proliferation of that. There's more of that now than ever. So you're looking for that back who's a little, of course, there are going to be some teams that are going to love Braylon Allen, right? And they run a scheme that is conducive to his skill set. But guys like Brooks who can do, or are playing at a high level in a myriad of different run schemes, I think bodes very well for his draft stock. So something I just wanted to kind of explore a little bit more. We're talking about guys having slow starts, but I think it's going to be significant in terms of evaluation and how we ultimately rank guys. When all the testing comes out, the medicals, everything is all said and done, what kind of systemic fit are these guys. And the more you can do, the more flexible you are, I think that bodes in your favor, particularly in this age where running backs are kind of devalued to a certain degree. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, I would agree, man. I think Headley, you said it last week. The number one thing that you want from your running back is to make people miss, right? That's one of the biggest things that we here at CPGM specifically say, hey, if you can't make somebody miss, you already got a leg down. You're already down one, right? But he can do that in spades. He can do it. Nobody can do it. I don't think anybody can do it as good as Bijan. I hate to bring that up, but Brooks can do it in his own right. The brother is smooth, and I like him out the backfield too in terms of his hands. So, but real quick, Hello, you mentioned him earlier, Jalen Fourier. He was out there struggling, man. I think part of it too, and I think Catalan was struggling too. I think Oklahoma's offense, that fast pace, I don't think they were ready for it. I don't think they started to slow it down in the second half, and I think that's part of the reason why they were able to kind of catch themselves and catch up. But I mean, when it's like things are going a million miles a minute, you got the crowd into it. It's just a bunch of different factors that are going into it, and I don't think he ever caught himself in terms of Jalen Ford to kind of settle down and play the game that he normally would play. But it'll be interesting to see how he comes out, these next couple of weeks, because that probably, I haven't checked their schedule, but obviously that's one of, if not the biggest game that they would have played this year. But I guess like Juicy, you said earlier, they're probably gonna play each other again in the. Well, no, is there a championship game, or is it they just take the top two teams in the conference overall? Okay, so they'll be all right then. All right, so we'll see this again at a neutral field. So okay, all right.
Yeah, you both mentioned the fact that Ford had some struggles in this game, and Drew, you mentioned it, alluded to it. It seemed like Texas wasn't necessarily prepared for what Oklahoma was doing offensively, in particular, right? And Texas, they shot themselves in the foot. They self-destructed. I don't want to take anything away from Oklahoma, but Texas, they didn't help themselves, right? With the turnover margin being what it was, and not capitalizing when their opportunities presented themselves until that second half, really, truly. But I question some of the coaching. We're giving credit to Venables for really turning this team around very quickly, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, but didn't seem like Sark had his team ready to go. You know what I'm saying? This is the biggest game on your schedule on an annual basis, right? You know how the rivalry games are. It doesn't necessarily matter what the team's records are when they do face each other. It's gonna be a challenging game. It's gonna have its ebbs and flows. And while Texas was able to get back in it and make it competitive and put themselves in position to win, to your point, particularly in that first half, they didn't seem prepared. Now, you mentioned Oklahoma may have taken the foot off the gas a little bit. I'll give a little credit to Sark and his staff, right, in terms of making some halftime adjustments and understanding what they needed to do in order to attack Oklahoma. So you got to put four quarters together. That's my big takeaway, right? And as you mentioned, you talk about prevent and end of games. You got to finish games, right? And no one melted down worse than my Hurricanes. I mean, I got to get it on wax. I got to. It's therapeutic for me. Like, I'm past it, right? I'm focused on UNC, right? Because if we're not focused on UNC, we're gonna get boat race. So I'm past it. But for something to lose a game like that, I mean, literally, you snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never seen anything quite like it, and I did not see when Cristobal did this several years back in
Oregon.
He has a thing where he doesn't want to take a knee. And again, if you're up multiple scores, I can understand that you want to get guys reps. Drew, you made a great point. You go into victory formation to preserve yourself as well, to protect your players as well. You know what I'm saying? When the game is in hand, right? Finish the game. Now, of course, despite the fact that Miami gave Georgia Tech life by not kneeling, and that certainly is squarely on the coaching staff, Mario Cristobal in particular, you had an opportunity to get off the field, and you did it. You did it. You play a poor game. You sleepwalk coming out of a bye against a team that you're better than, right? You let them hang around. They build confidence, and then at the end of the game, you gift them an opportunity to get in position to kick a field goal. But instead of tying the game up, right?
They went for the win.
Your All-American safety, mind you, was coming off the injury first game back, but your All-American safety decides to drive on a route and let somebody get in behind them for the go-ahead touchdown with like 2 seconds remaining. That
was crazy.
A meltdown, bro.
I turned the game off. When I seen they got the first down, I was like, oh, this game's over. A couple knees, it's over. And then you put it in a group. It was like Miami blew it. I was like, what? Nah.
Impossible.
I went back to the box score. I'm like, what happened? I had to rewatch it and see what Cristobal did. I don't know. Were you like you said? You guys started off with. Were you looking ahead? You thought they were looking ahead?
I think there certainly was a certain level of that, but there's no excuse for it coming out of a bye, right?
That's true.
There's no excuse for that coming out of a bye. I get it. I get how teams, especially young teams, will look ahead from time to time, but to come out that flat, TVD, we were singing his praises. Jake and I were singing his praises last week. Comes out, he throws 3 INTs. He wasn't sharp. You know what I'm saying? And here's the worst. I shouldn't say the worst part of it. It just compounds everything.
Yeah.
Bro, Donald Chaney was down on that fumble, bro.
Yeah.
He was down, bro.
Did they look at it, or did they just stand and look at that?
Yes. It's terrible. College officiating is terrible. Yeah, it was crazy. A play. I forgot what game. The punter was bobbled it, and he was short, but they called it a first down. They reviewed it. I forgot what game was that. I forgot the game. I'm not sure what game that was. And they reviewed it, and they called it a first down.
Still call it a first down. I mean, I don't get it, bro. I don't get
Egos,
it.
Bro. You gotta leave it what we called it.
Miami shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, but that one's for the ages, bro. That one is for the ages, and I've seen some bad losses. That one was pretty bad. You got a chance to go 5-0. You know what I'm saying? We thinking we in the mix. We about to play the big dogs in the ACC, UNC, Clemson, FSU coming up. You know what I'm saying? You want to ride that momentum, right? You face some adversity in the game. You put yourself in position to win the game, and all it took was one knee, one victory formation, and it's over. And lo and behold, a loss. But I'm really interested to see how Miami bounces back, how they put this debacle behind them. I think that's going to go a long way in terms of the team's character, as far as what they can handle, as far as adversity. I wasn't happy about the performance, obviously, but I was encouraged by the fact that they found a way to put themselves in position to win the game, right? The coaches failed them, frankly. But this game against UNC is a significant one, and a big part of why it's so significant is because you're going to be facing the best quarterback you faced all season in Drake May, and Drake May is among our studs of the week. And let me get all our branding off the screen here so you can see. But huge game for Drake May. The eight TDs, 4 INTs, the 2-to-1 ratio there. It seems a bit pedestrian, man. But I'll tell you what, Drake May had 323 total yards and 3 total TDs at the half in this one.
Yeah.
Right. So as you're entering conference play, Drake May seems to be hitting his stride. He was terrific in this contest. What were your thoughts, Headley?
I thought, May, like you said, the stats speak for itself. Syracuse tried to send pressure early his way, and he kind of tore them up, getting the ball out quickly, attacking one-on-one matchups. There was a play, pressure was coming from his left. He saw it pre-snap. He did a little rollout to the right, threw a dot for the touchdown. So it kind of shows his pocket presence. We talked a lot last season about, off script and what he could do off script. And it seems like he's improving that as well. When they played zone against him, he took advantage in the middle of the field. He uses his legs a lot. He's very athletic quarterback, accuracy to all 3 levels of the field. And you see it time and time again. He got his boy Tez Walker back. I'm glad to see him back out there. He's hitting him. And like I said, the off structure thing, he's throwing into tighter windows. There was a lot of wider windows last season, throwing into tighter windows this season. The zip on this ball, it's just beautiful, man. He has the arm talent. That's one thing Drake May has. He has athleticism. He has the arm talent. He's playing better off script. And there was a play also when he was in a pistol. They ran a play action fake, turned his back to the defense. He stepped up ever so slightly, threw a 50-yard bomb down the field. And it's the subtle things in his game that I think is improving for Drake May. The pocket presence, because the arm talent was always there, the athleticism was always there, but him moving around in the pocket a little better, playing better off structure. And yeah, this guy, you know, we talk about the quarterbacks. You know, we always say it's Caleb Williams, and then it's you know, it might be a Michael Penix, might be a Drake May, JJ McCarthy. You know, we see the stats: 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, but Drake May might be kind of moving his way up. I wouldn't put him with Caleb Williams yet. I think when throughout the draft process, though, I think there's going to be a lot of nitpicking on Caleb Williams. He's not as big as Drake May. He does things a little unconventional. You know, Drake May's started. Oh, it's already started. So yeah. you know what's going to happen through the draft process, and I think Drake May is going to move up more and more up the board. He's got some big games coming up, like you said, against Miami next week. We'll see what he does there, but he just looks the part, man. I wouldn't call him CJ Stroud, but it's kind of like how Stroud was last year, where he just looks the part. He can make every single throw, and it just comes easy to him. And we'll see where he lands. If he's not the top pick, he's probably going to be in the top 3, top 2 picks in the NFL draft next year.
Now we see what it looks like when it's blocked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see what he can do when it's blocked up, when things are the way they're supposed to be. You see him at his best, man. I know that like you were saying, that the 8 and 4, that's not pretty. We don't want a 2 for 1. You know, we want like a 5 for 1, a 10 for 1, something like that. You know, Caleb Williams got that. Caleb Williams got that 20 for 1, something like that. You know, but yeah, man, I Drake May, he's actually fun to watch. I know that Caleb Williams is like I don't want to say it's a circus, because it's not, because a circus means that bad things are happening, but it's entertaining to watch Caleb Williams. But when you want to sit back and you just want to kind of relax and watch somebody go through and their progressions, and you want to see it from a more traditional style, I think Drake May gives you that. Helly, you spoke about him in terms of his size and his ability to get the football down the field. Some coaches don't want to deal with that Caleb Williams style. Some coaches want the guy to be able to drop back, make plays. I know that we were talking about, well, y'all two were talking about how you didn't really, you guys weren't fans of Drake May in terms of out of structure, right? He looked like he performed better when he was inside the structure. It looks like he's kind of coming into his own maybe a little bit when you talk about outside of structure. But hey, man, this is a guy I'm high on. I see a lot of Herbert in him. So if I'm telling you, you're getting Herbert, you know, minus the Bolt, you know.
Minus the Bolt.
Minus the Bolt. You know, the Bolt is a curse for them boys. Can't do it, man. Can't do it.
I think, you know, our reservations with respect to Drake May during our summer scouting, obviously what we saw last year, it makes sense. It makes sense. As you mentioned, the protection wasn't phenomenal last year, and he's a young player learning how to deal with pressure, recognizing things pre-snap, understanding what's changing post-snap, you know, speeding up his clock. I think the analysis that we provided previously was appropriate, and the things that we wanted to see him improve upon, he's improved upon. Right. That's exactly what you want to see. So he's right on schedule. The question becomes, you know, how close is Drake May to Caleb Williams? There's some people who feel it's neck and neck. There's a small percentage of folks that feel that Drake May is the guy. Like you said, throughout the pre-draft process, that there are going to be people who fall in love with the measurables on top of the film, right? It's all good. But in your estimation, Drew, how close is he to Caleb Williams?
He's closer. I think the thing that'll always hold me back isn't Drake May's fault. It's that Caleb Williams, just that he can get you out of a bad play with his Houdini act, man. You know what I'm saying? Things are going, you know, the wrong direction. He can kind of turn it around. He can contort his body. He can throw it the way he want to throw it, sidearm, however he needs to get it out there. And he I don't think he necessarily makes mistakes. So it's not like he has a bunch of turnover-worthy plays like we
Right.
saw when Patrick Mahomes was coming out, because everybody wants to forget about those. There was a ton of those, and nobody ever speaks about them because they didn't turn into turnovers. So I guess it's one of those things. If what is it? A tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those, right? So he doesn't have any of that. So I don't see that going into the league, that all of a sudden he's going to become this turnover machine, right? So, it's just that fact, that little bit of an it factor that kind of keeps Caleb kind of above everybody else, because that is something that I think is special.
Joey Nichols, what's happening, man? You're absolutely right. It does look like a video game at times watching Caleb Williams. And Drew mentioned that. It's the anxiety that you get, right? Watching him out of structure, running around, making plays. It's exciting, but you can get a little anxious. And I think you make a great point, Drew, is that he's protecting the football. And I mean, Caleb Williams, we talked about it. Just so Drake May had things to work on, Caleb Williams has things to work on, right? His process and staying within a well-formed pocket, trusting what he sees and delivering the football on time on a consistent basis. Caleb Williams is playing at a higher level than he was last year at this time. And last year, he ultimately won the Heisman, right? To me, it smacks of yes. When a guy looks that good and is doing the scramble drill as often as he does, you worry as to whether or not he's creating bad habits. I actually see the opposite. I see him reining that in a little bit. He still has it. He can still go to it, right? But I see him incrementally reining that in. And I think whether it be Drake May, Caleb Williams, whatever the case may be, when it comes to the next level, coaching, culture, supporting cast, all of that is going to matter. It's going to matter. Regardless of how talented the quarterback is, it's going to matter. Again, we talk about Patrick Mahomes and his play style and the incredible upside he had. The fact that he landed in Kansas City, obviously they believed in him, but he landed with Andy Reid on a playoff team, right? That made a difference. And on top of that, he had opportunity to sit and learn how to prepare. And he himself has credited Alex Smith with ensuring that he understood what it took in order to get ready game in, game out. So, I mean, there's a lot of different factors, and certainly I'm not gonna knock anybody if they feel like there isn't a huge gap between Drake May and Caleb Williams, but the whole thing about nitpicking Caleb Williams, it's bound to happen because he's considered the first overall pick. He's going to be the first overall pick in the draft. I don't think it's for Drake May to be the first overall pick. I don't think it's out of the question. I just can't imagine it. I can't imagine Caleb Williams putting a better season on top of what he did in 2022 and not being the first pick overall. I can't grasp it. I can't get my head around it. Right. So, but again, when you're at the top, there's nowhere to go but down. You know what I'm saying? So of course, it gets somewhat tiring. It gets boring to talk about and heap praise on Caleb Williams. So we're gonna go and we're gonna see ultimately what we can dissect. And again, some of that is legitimate, but a lot of it I think is, conjecture. I don't think people truly realize that he's actually playing better than he did a season ago. He's rectifying some of those legitimate concerns that we had coming out of summer scouting. Hallie, your thoughts on these two quarterbacks and how they stack up? I know you got Caleb Williams over him, but how close?
It's not as close as Drew got it. I'll tell you that much. I still got a pretty wide gap.
Wow.
And Drew spoke to it, man. It's that it factor. It's that guy. That's the guy you want, like you said, number one overall. He can get you out of bad plays. He uses his legs, that off structure. More and more in the NFL, these quarterbacks are performing outside the structure of the offense. And, Drake May is improving upon that. But, we'll see, man. When I saw him last season and the pressure got to him, especially in that Clemson game, he kind of threw the ball up in the air, turnover-worthy plays. And he has 2-to-1 touchdown and interception. So it's not like, he's not playing as good as Caleb. Caleb is playing better than his Heisman campaign. And Drake May, although, we see the flashes, he's probably playing worse than he did last year in terms of touchdowns to interceptions. So, we'll see more of Drake May going along, but we want to see him when teams heat him up, that pressure gets to him, and how he performs then. Because everything looked good in this game, like you said, Drew, because he wasn't getting hit. It was slight pressure, and he had good pocket presence. But let's see it when a guy comes unblocked to him. What can he do? Because we know what Caleb Williams is going to do. If a guy comes on block, he's going to run around him. He's going to create big plays. Make nothing out of something. So I think he just has that over Drake May right now. I like Michael Penix a lot also. He's probably not going to get drafted in front of Drake May, but I think he has a better arm than Drake May. So we'll see where Penix and Drake May ultimately lands up. And he has a big game this week, Michael Penix. So I'm expecting to put up big numbers there and make his way up the first round as well.
I want to get to some of these comments here because I think they're poignant. So Jake mentions here 2023 has really shown that Mahomes still has Texas Tech in him. Yeah.
And he doesn't have the weapons. He still has Andy Reid, but he doesn't have the weapons right now.
Of course. And as a result, Mahomes is reverting a little bit back to what he did in Texas Tech because he felt he had to carry Texas. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
You get a few more of those turnover-worthy throws, and the defensive backs are actually catching it. You know what I'm saying? He served it up a couple times, right? He's served, and he's gotten some back with some penalties being called, and so you can see him pressing a little bit because the supporting cast isn't quite what it's been. Kelsey obviously still making plays. Of course, he had a huge Thursday night game, but he's not. This is not Kelsey of 2 years ago. Kelsey's on the back end of it now. Just turned 34, coming off of an injury. You got young receivers that you're trying to break in. You got 2 new offensive tackles that you're starting. It's not the same.
Yeah, not the same.
You see the play and the counting numbers from Mahomes come back. Now, of course, Kansas City's playing a great defense. He's making the plays when he absolutely has to make them. They're still winning games, but you can see that the performance hasn't been as prodigious as it's been over the last several seasons. So that makes a whole lot of sense. And as Jake mentioned here, the difference between Caleb and Drake May is how they handle pressure. That's really what it comes down to. That's absolutely what it comes down to. So yeah, Joey, I'm with you. Drake is nice, but Caleb is him. I'm with you. I'm in that camp.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. We should hashtag it, bro. Drake is nice, but Caleb is him.
I don't think it's any knock on Drake May. But like I said, I think people are discounting the fact that Caleb Williams is actually playing better than he did last year, right? And again, when you watch that film from Caleb Williams, it was not perfect. Now, as impressive as he was, it wasn't perfect, but he's actually playing better, as is Drake May. All right.
I also, real quick, and I'm probably gonna say this for the entire draft season, is Caleb is going to go before Drake May, and it's because they don't want to miss on their Patrick Mahomes, whoever the hell it is.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Every quarterback needy organization is terrified of getting it wrong, right? After they've seen what Patrick Mahomes has done. Again, I think as talented as Mahomes was coming out of Texas Tech, the skill set and what I have grown to really appreciate about Mahomes is his competitive streak, right? I think that makes the world of difference. He has the physical tools, there's no question about that, but his competitiveness to me is what's really separating him at this juncture. Kansas City won the division the year he got drafted, right? Kansas City was drafting at the bottom of the first round. They traded up. Because they realized that Alex Smith could only take them so far. They already had a playoff roster. I think Kansas City has missed the playoffs once since Andy Reid has been the coach and I think Andy Reid was the coach since 2013. You understand what I'm saying? Like, people don't understand that the situation was perfect. Now, he's exceeded all expectations, but that situation was perfect. Drake May, Caleb Williams, they're not going to situations like that. They're going to go to bad football teams. Believe that. So I think on the one hand, it's fair to compare the prospects because of the play style, but the expectation in terms of immediate success, I don't know that that's fair because, again, you're going to very different situations. The circumstances have changed. That isn't going to matter, though. At the end of the day, none of that's going to matter. None of that context is truly going to matter.
Nah.
It's going to be, is he as good as this other guy? He hasn't.
You winning Super Bowls or not?
Exactly.
You winning Super Bowls or not?
Exactly.
That's what it's going to come down to.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. David Valentine checking in. I know he's keeping his eye on his Commanders. Yeah. I think Sam Howell. Speaking of quarterbacks, Sam Howell 6 starts, 3 for 3. 3 and 3 in those 6 starts. I think he's been as good as you can kind of expect to this point. I want to see more of him, but Washington certainly could be in the market for a quarterback this year.
I think you just got to protect Howell. I think it's all protection with him.
To David's point, to David's point that they really do need to improve along the offensive line. Yeah, some other guys. There's some other guys. My guy in Washington State, Cam Ward, he had a tough one against UCLA. They got after him, but that's another guy that I like a lot. I like him a lot. And another quarterback that he needs his respect. Drew talked about him being the dark horse for Heisman. He's part of the conversation. Jaden Daniels, man. And listen, Jaden Daniels is coming off a phenomenal game where they just outlasted Missouri, 15 of 21, 259 yards. Not huge passing totals, but 3 TDs, very efficient. And then, of course, what he did on the ground, 15 carries, 130 yards with another TD. He actually had better numbers the week before, and he didn't make our studs list.
No,
he actually had better numbers before. Another. I think he had 100 yards rushing last week and a TD as well, but about 350 passing yards in that game as well. So Jaden Daniels has been phenomenal. He is the engine. As much as we talk about Malik Neighbors, that's my guy, receiver 2. Brian Thomas. We typically have a bunch of defensive players to get excited about with LSU. Not quite as much. I know Mason Smith up front. We can go up front. Not quite as much this season, but Jaden Daniels has been, everything and more for LSU. And they go as he goes. If Jaden Daniels doesn't play great, they're not winning. If Jaden Daniels plays great, they might still lose. You know what I'm saying? So he's been phenomenal. What do you think about his performance thus far, Drew?
It's been outstanding, man. When your defense ain't good and you got to go out there and you got to be – I think Caleb Williams felt that last year. Like, damn, my defense ain't going to stop nobody. And this is unacceptable by LSU, by the way. SEC team, got all this talent. You know what the problem is? I told you – I think I said it last week or the week before. There is no number 7 on the field, bro. There is no number 14 on the field either.
I feel you, right? But it's coaching. And I know D-Kid, that's his guy.
It's bad out there on that defense. Them boys can't tackle. Them boys ain't got no dog. They bested. Number 4 can't do it by himself, bro, on the defense. There got to be other guys to get it done. I don't know what's going on with Mason Smith. We talked about Wingo early. Like, they just can't put it together consistently on that defensive side. But, Jaden Daniels knows this. And so that you got to think, like, he's like, all right, man, I know I got to be the guy. Like, I have to take chances. I have to, when it's not there, I got to take off. I got to run. I talked about it earlier in the season when we were doing the scouting for the players in terms of LSU. I talked about him and I said, yo, he's kind of slippery when wet, right? But he kind of does it with speed because you don't think he's that fast until he starts running around, starts breaking some tackles. He is, I don't want to say he's special, but he is my dark horse.
He's playing like he's special.
And he's progressing as a quarterback. Because when he first started, I was like, yo.
Yeah, same.
LSU is not it, bro. That defense ain't that good. You know what I'm saying? That offense is deer in the headlights out there. And it's every game he plays, just consistently
better and better.
Just gets better and better and better. I just need him to do one thing.
Protect himself. Oh, man. That's ridiculous, bro.
Except he didn't fumble the football. I don't.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, he just take big hits. He runs upright a little bit straight,
which makes it
worse. Getting blasted. I think he got a rib injury this last game, so he got to watch himself, man. He got to protect himself. He's not going to last to the NFL if he keeps running into. They're bigger and stronger over there. So, but like you said with Jaden Daniels, last season I wanted to see him, pre-snap, working through progressions, improving upon that, and you see that in this last game against Missouri where he's setting up defenders. He's looking off the safeties. He's scanning right to left. You see it time after time. He sees neighbors on the inside route, and then he watched the safety come up, and then he goes over top to Brian Thomas Jr. It's just he's manipulating safeties with his eyes a lot better this season. I think he's one of the best dual threats, if not, it's Caleb Williams, and then it's probably him as dual threat quarterbacks in the nation. Like Drew said, he gets it done with his legs. And I said it last season, man, and I compared him to a guy for Alabama, Bryce Young last season, and it's because of his nervous system. You know, he's always calm. Jaden Daniels always cool. It was some bad snaps. He kind of bobbled a snap, and he was like, all right, I'm just going to run in and get the touchdown. And, you know, he did it time after time. But like Drew said, man, we got to protect them ribs, man. Like, you can't win the Heisman. You can't get to the NFL, man, if you're going to keep getting hit time after time. But I like how he's progressing, layering those balls in between the corners and safeties, looking off defenders. He's becoming a quarterback in front of our eyes. And just like last season, he started off a little slow. And he's like Bruce Wayne turning into Batman. That bat signal comes on, and he turns into a different guy, and he balls out for the rest of the season. So, you know, we'll see what Heisman. I think it's Penix, Caleb Williams at the top of the Heisman list right now. But Jaden Daniels is definitely a dark horse also if he continues to ball like this.
Joey Nichols, you're not imagining things. I'm not sure what LSU is doing as far as their deployment of Harold Perkins, who is an exquisite pass rusher. That first game of the season, as Headley and Drew mentioned, they had him playing off-ball linebacker. I think he only rushed the passer 7 times in that game, and Keon Coleman had his coming out party during that game. Right, they just kept on going vertical in that game. So you completely neutralize your best pass rusher in that particular game. And we just haven't seen it consistently throughout the season. Them unleash him, right? Allow him to make game-changing plays as a full-time pass rusher. But I think what's happening here is that there's a lack of confidence, a lack of belief of the other 10 guys, right? So your second-level defenders, because those guys aren't playing at a high enough level, they're not varsity enough, what do? You move Harold Perkins there. You feel like you got a little bit more depth along your defensive line. You got more guys up front who can get the job done. Then you take your best player who can do it all, and you make him a second-level defender. Now, it's not ideal, but it perhaps allows you to put the best quote-unquote 11 on the field. That's going to be my only explanation for why they haven't unleashed Harold Perkins. Of course, Perkins not draft eligible, but certainly a huge difference maker and one of the best defensive prospects for the 2025 NFL draft. But before we move off of Jaden Daniels, I just want to just kind of clue everybody into some of these numbers. All right. So as far as completion percentage, right? And I want to use, I want to use kind of a decent figure associated with this. It's difficult because, of course, the various websites that have the statistics, whatever the case may be, they have guys who've only thrown 20 passes and stuff like that. But Jaden Daniels is completing 73% of his passes. All right. As far as yards are concerned in the FBS, only Shedeur Sanders and Michael Penix Jr. have more passing yards, and it's about 40 yards more to this point. As far as passing TDs this season, only the aforementioned Caleb Williams has more passing TDs than Jaden Daniels. 22 for Williams, 19 for Daniels. Penix is at 16. And Daniels has thrown 2 INTs. This is all in the SEC. This is all in the SEC on top of it, man. So he's been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. I know, we talked about him being able to throw those whole shots and drive the football on a consistent basis. Is the arm strength there to make all the throws on a consistent basis? I think there's some question marks there. But when you talk about what's going on between the ears and what's beating in his chest, Jaden Daniels, you can win with Jaden Daniels anywhere, right? And like I said, for LSU in particular, he is the engine. Right, as much as we love Malik Neighbors and the way Brian Thomas are playing, if Jaden Daniels doesn't have it going, it's not going anywhere. It's stuck in neutral. They can't turn around, hand the ball off 30 times and play defense. They can't do it. You understand what I'm saying? And like I said, this is the SEC, so there's really no cupcakes necessarily. There may be one or two, but by and large, you can get beat any week in the SEC. So really impressive stuff from here. Let's talk about a couple pass catchers here. We got Malachi Corley and Jermaine Burton. We've talked about Adonai Mitchell, who's at Texas. He transferred from Georgia. Jermaine Burton also transferred from Georgia, ends up in Alabama. He's the receiver one over there, and he's coming off a huge performance. And looks like Alabama has found a little bit of a passing game here. Your thoughts on Burton, Drew?
Yeah, man. I was waiting for this guy to bust out last year. I had him in my notes. I had to put him at the back of the bus, bro, because he wasn't getting no play, getting no run, man. Because Georgia, had the tight ends or whatever. So, but Burton, I think he was hurt last week. I think they said they wanted to unleash him last week, but he was hurt, so he didn't play. But this is a guy who consistently just was able to create separation between him and the corner. This is a guy who's got a little quick twitch to his game. He's got some attitude. I think he got a personal foul or something. He's got some strong hands. Well, I'm not gonna say he's got some hands because he had 2 drops. One was just a good play by the defender. The other one, I think he just outright dropped. But he's a guy who is, as far as I'm concerned, he's a big play threat guy. Just get him the football, let him throw it downfield, man. He can separate vertically, he can separate horizontally. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jalen McMillan, except he can play on the outside. He's the outside version of Jalen McMillan, while McMillan is obviously the slot player.
And we all know your affinity for Jalen McMillan.
Yes. You already know. Hopefully he's healthy this week. But this is the guy that they were missing. I think they were talking about Burton and I think the other receiver number 17, Bond. I think those are the 2 guys they kind of been waiting on to kind of turn it around. And I think Milroe? He's starting to turn it on. So, we'll see what happens in this game. Though they couldn't, neither team, Texas A&M or Alabama, couldn't run the football really. So it was really up to the quarterbacks to drop back and play ball. And Milroe was getting it to his guy in Burton. Man, I mean, I'm just. When I saw it, I just smiled. I said, "This is what we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
This is who he is, right? This is what they've been missing for the past couple of years, and they may have found it here in Burton."
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly, bro. It's we've been waiting on this, man. I had to dust off the 2020 tape. I had to dust off not the tape, the notes. I had to dust off the 2020 notes, the 2021 notes, because when you saw him at Georgia, you was like, okay, this is a guy. And then we seen that he transferred to Alabama. It was like, okay, him and Bryce Young, they're going to put up some big numbers together. Didn't quite get that connection with Bryce Young, but hopefully him and Milroe could develop something. Most of his yardage in this last game, it came outside the numbers. He has the ability to play above the rim. He has strong hands. Like you said, he had a couple drops, but when he goes up and gets the ball at the highest point, very strong hands. You see some subtleness in his route running. He could take the top off the defense. He could create separation at the stems, man. You really see it. Very nimble feet to create that separation. He was taking advantage of 28 it was abusing that guy, man. You know, when he played close, he blew by.
What's the hotline, bro? What's the hotline? Call the hotline. Whatever the hotline is, call it, bro.
Caught him with a stutter, go, double move. After the catchability, because 28 was like, you know what? I'm playing 15 yards off of this guy. And Burton ran a slant, caught the ball, broke some tackles, still scored a touchdown, man. And, like Drew said, man, it's just good to see Jermaine Burton do this against Texas A&M because, we've been waiting on this performance for a while. And he delivered because before this game, I think he only played 8 games last week. He had the injury, but he only had 13 targets all of the season before this game. He caught 9 balls for 197, and he only had 13 targets before this. So they got to get him into the offense, man. Alabama's passing game has to get going, and it has to start with Jermaine Burton, man. He's a big play waiting to happen. So I love to see it for Alabama and Burton.
And it's something that you have to keep in mind, right? As you're doing your analysis on these players, of course, a lot of the focus isn't necessarily statistical output. Of course, when we're talking about the studs of the week, that's what we're focusing on. But obviously, we're also analyzing the player to determine NFL draft fit, where they slot in. And certainly among the receivers, the depth at the receiver position, the talent, the vast amount of talent that they have at the receiver position is really impressive because as talented as Jermaine Burton is, and again, we haven't gotten to see his full wares because of some of the quarterback play at Alabama. There are a lot of guys that I'm taking before Jermaine Burton. So again, that's a testament to the depth of this particular receiver class. Speaking of the depth, Malachi Corley is a difference maker for the Hilltoppers. All right. And You get a lot of these comps to Debo
Oh, don't
Samuel
do
because
it.
of what he can. I know.
Don't
I know.
do
We're
it.
not doing it here. I'm just putting it out there that there are a lot of comps because of what he does with the ball in his hands, what he does after the catch. He's impressive. He's impressive after the catch. Let's talk a little bit about Malachi.
Yeah, he's that type of, wide receiver / weapon that's hard to get on the ground. And, we hear the comparisons to Debo because of what he does after the catch. But I think Debo is just a lot better route runner than him, better in contested catch situations. I just think Debo is a better receiver than Corley. Corley route tree, man, it's not much that they're doing with him. A lot of screen passes. So I think he got to improve that route tree. But he's fearless, man. That's one thing I love about him. He's very fearless. He's very explosive. He runs through you. He makes you look dumb. If you're a DB out there and you're trying to make business decisions, Corley isn't the guy that you want to face. He'll run you over. It's crazy. And Drew said a line for Kareem Hunt a couple years ago, like a wet bar of soap. He's slippery like that. He's very slippery, like a wet bar of soap. He's a former running back, so that tells you everything you need to know about Malachi Corley. And like I said, the route tree, it will develop after a while. He's playing in that Western Kentucky offense. They're not doing much route running with him, but once he gets his hands on the ball, whether it's jet motion, a toss out the backfield, they even use him as a running back sometimes, and just get the ball to him in space, and you'll see big things like he did this last Thursday, man. So Corley's a guy, he's moving up the board. He's the stud of the week, but he's kind of been balling all season long. Even last year, he balled out last season. He's one of those under the radar. He's not in one of those big schools, so some people forget about him, but he got game, man. He got game. Probably going to be a mid-round selection in the 2024 class.
Yeah, I was frustrated watching the tape because I can't tell you how many times on so many screen passes. Like, I just kind of ignore those. Like, as long as you catch the football and I'll check you out, see what you do after the play. But I already knew what he was, you know what I'm saying, once the ball's in his hand. That's not really what I'm interested in. I want to see, how do you run the routes? What do they look like? Do you have twitch? Do you got the subtleness? How do you look at the stem? Like what routes are you running? We ain't running no routes over here. We just trying to get them the football any way, shape, or form because that's how we're using them. So it's going to be very, very interesting in terms of, and I don't think we won't see it until, I don't know that we'll ever see it. Like, this is one of those, he's going to be a receiver where, is he a senior? No, he's a junior, so we won't even be able to see him at the Senior Bowl. Assuming he comes out, right? This is going to be a guy who he's going to have to test very well, and it's going to come down to pro day. It's going to come down to personal workouts at different teams. Like I think he has a ceiling because of that, right? In terms of his draft stock, So I hate to see this because we're not going to see him at his fullest potential till he gets in the league on a team that's going to kind of show us that, right? We're just going to
the offensive coordinator, the system is going. Yeah, it's going to be big for him. What system he gets in, what coordinator he gets in. I think Joey Nichols. He mentioned another guy, Laviska Shenault. I think he's similar to him, where he's really good with the ball in his hands. He could be used as a wide receiver, running back. He's just a weapon on the football field. So Shenault, he didn't really get into the system to really use his skill set. So it'd be very interesting to see where Corley will get drafted because
that's the danger.
He's not Debo. He's not Debo in terms as a route runner and a receiver.
Yeah, I think the hope is, to your point, that he continues to develop from a route running perspective. You go and the coaches get a hold of you, start working with a more expansive route tree. But I also think that perhaps more importantly for Malachi Corley in particular, considering his skill set, is the landing spot. You guys mentioned it. How are you deploying him? There's so many teams that have these throws at or behind the line of scrimmage. Look at how Kadarius Toney is being used in Kansas City, right? Look how Sky Moore is being used. And again, I'm obviously we're using Andy Reid, who is Mount Rushmore of play callers, right? At least in the modern era of football. You're gonna have to be in a landing spot like that, I think, to get the absolute maximum out of him. But the hope is that he continues to develop as a more traditional receiver in terms of the route tree itself. All right. Our last player among the studs of the week is Antario Brown. The Northern Illinois Huskers running back had a big week.
It was ridiculous. Every week is a guy like this.
He didn't get a lot of work. He didn't get a lot of work, man. 13 carries, 280 yards, and 4 TDs in this one.
It's called being efficient, bro.
Yeah, bro. Every week we got a stud of the week where it's like it's a little bit of work and a lot of yards, and it's like he can't maintain this for the rest of the season, but it's fun to watch. Big holes for him. He kept on getting down that right sideline. Even the play where he went left, he still found a way to get down that right sideline for a touchdown. I think he was clocked at just under 21 miles per hour. So he got a little speed on him and breaking ability. Very shifty guy, cuts really quickly. So it's a name. I like the studs of the week because it's always a name that you was like, okay, I'm gonna keep watching him as the season goes along and see what kind of player he is. And then Terrio Brown, 280 yards, 4 TDs. I think that's was an FBS single season high this year, 280 rushing yards. So big game for Brown, man.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the running backs, and like you said, this is not sustainable by any stretch of the imagination. But anytime you see, a blow up type of performance like this, and you mentioned, that on field speed, just hovering just below 21 miles per hour, area scouts, they're gonna perk up. They're gonna perk up. That's your day 3 guy. That's your undrafted guy who then carves out a role. You know about the attrition at the position, so keep a pin in it. Keep a pin in it, right? You know what I'm saying? They talk about running backs being a dime a dozen, but you got to know who they are. You got to be able to identify them. So impressive performance by Antonio Brown. Before we get into the studs of the week, or rather the stock up players, I wanted to mention Trey Benson, as you alluded to it earlier, Hadley. 11 carries, 200 yards, 2 TDs, light work. Easy money. He needed it. He needed it over the first 4 games, only 189 yards. He hasn't had a huge workload, so I'm expecting his workload to pick up. This is one of the guys that, was in that top 5 conversation. Some folks had him as high as maybe RB3 in the class. Just hasn't necessarily had the breakout until this past week. We'll see what he does week 7. And then Muhammad Kamara, man, I think it's more for stock up purposes, but we talked about him previously. He's made this list before. He leads the nation in sacks with 9.5, and he's had at least 1 sack in every game. And Muhammad Kamara, if you don't know, he's from Colorado State. My real first big time exposure to him was the late night game against Colorado, which obviously was very entertaining, but he's a difference maker. So keep an eye on him as well. I mentioned before we get to stock up, I want to do a quick trivia with you guys. We haven't done it in a while. I don't have a full slate of trivia, but with respect to the game of the week, we got Oregon, we got Washington, we got points that we're anticipating. I want to get a sense of what you recall, right, as far as this Washington passing game, not under Michael Penix, not the current iteration, but in years past. And the question is, all right, you guys on the private chat, right? You guys on private chat.
Hey, real quick, Joey Nichols, real quick, just answer the question. We like Marshawn Lloyd, USC as well.
We talked about him a couple weeks. Last couple weeks we were talking about him, but
last 2 weeks,
But before I wanted to say something. I just didn't want to cut you off, Juice.
No, go ahead.
Trey Benson, not a stud. That's hate, bro. That's hate. That's hate, bro. Why is he not on the list, bro? That's hate.
Bro, because your boy ran for 280
against what team though? Against what? Who? Against who? Who did he do it against?
It was against Akron,
bro. Come on.
VTech is terrible.
I'll just give you a hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. Florida State
there's
hate.
only so many, and I thought about it too, bro. I was like, bro, 280 on 13 carries. I gotta put them on 14.
I got you.
I gotta put them on, bro.
Ellie wearing that garnet and gold.
See, I got the colors. I got the garnet on right now.
You had the colors on, but I gave them blood, bro. I mentioned
you did.
Bro.
You did.
You know what I'm saying?
I think it was that Keon Coleman talk last week, man. You said we said you was a closet fan, closet State fan. You didn't want to give Trey Benson love in back-to-back weeks, man. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, man. I'm still not rocking with y'all on this Keon Coleman being receiver 2 in the class. I'm not saying y'all.
No one said that.
But, I mean, I did say it in the one mock draft, but
I saw some other folks have him at wide receiver 2 this week. They posted up on Twitter.
What's that?
I saw on Twitter this week.
Yeah, on our community tab, bro. Almost 40% of the vote.
Listen,
I'm like, really? Okay, if you say so, you can get a top 5. I'm okay with that. Top 2, I can't go there just yet.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. All right. My trivia question for you, gentlemen, is actually I got 2 for you. I lied. I got 2. Who is the all-time leader in receiving yards for the Washington Huskies?
All-time receiving yards?
Is this the last 20 years, man?
Yeah, last 20 years. There you go.
All-time career receiving yards?
Career.
Bro, I don't even know who was drafted out of Washington, bro.
Your boy was.
Who?
John Ross, but I know it's not him.
That was
John
Juice's
Ross.
guy, bro. I did forget about John Ross.
The injuries, bro.
That's what we doing?
Yeah.
Because he had drops and everything. Bro.
Yeah, he didn't ball out before the injuries.
With the injuries.
Can we get another clue?
He played for Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken.
Jacksonville? Damn, bro. For all the teams this man could have played for, anybody paying attention to Jacksonville, bro?
Rod probably know. I bet you Rod knows.
Washington Huskies, all-time receivingly. Man, I got no idea.
All right, we won't belabor the point. Reggie Williams. Y'all remember Reggie Williams?
I remember the name. Yeah.
They paired him with somebody on that Jaguar. They were supposed to.
I think it was him and Matt Jones.
Oh yeah,
the guys.
Yeah,
right. Two big athletic guys, but you know, it didn't.
I wouldn't have guessed that, bro. We've been here all night, bro.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's why I cut that one short. All right, last one. Only one player in Washington's history has had a 4-touchdown game. Who is he? Receiving TDs.
Oh, receiving 4 TDs?
Yep.
Should have been Jalen McMillan.
Yeah.
It should have been. He should have been the second.
I don't even know who went to Washington.
Is it recent? Is it recent? Are we talking
John Ross?
How recent you talking?
Say in the last 10 years.
Close to the last 10 years.
I'm thinking of a name, but I'm not even sure if he went to Washington. Big body.
I'm still go John Ross though.
Did Jermaine Kearse
had a 3 TD game?
Jermaine Kearse ain't go over there, did he?
It's who?
Jermaine Kearse ain't go to Washington, did he?
It is Kearse, bro.
Okay.
Kearse
That's
is
what I was
bro.
thinking.
It's Kearse.
Wow.
You know, Pete Carroll like his West Coast guys.
Yeah, Pete does. You know how Pete do it. Yeah, it was Jermaine Kearse. That's a good guess.
Oh, yeah.
Got him. All right. Let's get into the studs. Or I keep on saying the studs. Stock up. A lot of guys' stocks were up. Of course, Headley just gave me a hard time about Trey Benson. We couldn't get everybody on the list. Mm-hmm. So we got 5 guys that we believe collectively their stock is up in terms of their NFL draft ranking. All right. Well, let's start right at the top here with Gabriel Murphy. Everybody knows how we feel about Latu. You know, arguably the best pass rusher in the class. Arguably, you know what I'm saying? I know you want to lean verse, but as far as the technical ability, the hand usage, I think he's peerless. His running mate, Gabriel Murphy, really, really gave our guy Cameron Ward a lot of trouble this past week. He broke out. Your thoughts on him, Headley?
Yeah, Gabriel, he's a guy that coming into this year, you're like, maybe he's a day 3 kind of guy, but I think he's working his way up, man. I think him and Latu has to be putting in time together because when you watch Murphy, his hand usage, his quickness with his hands, and you know UCLA on passing downs, they do something. They have one guy with his head in the ground and then 3 guys standing up, man. And you have Latu standing up over the edge, and then you have Gabriel Murphy standing up over the center, and they just go to work, man. They was heating up Cam Ward all game long. Cam Ward couldn't get going really because of this UCLA front. And you know, Gabriel Murphy, I always wanted to know which twin was the guy, him or his brother. And Gabriel Murphy seems like he's the guy over there. As far as the Twins go, Latu is still the best pass rusher over there. But yeah, Murphy's doing work right now, man. I really like what I see from him. He just ability to avoid. A lot of guys do it. You see Michael Parsons and Myles Garrett do it in the league. We saw Chot Robinson do it over there in Penn State, where I'm a line of pass rusher right over the center, and you're not quick enough. You can't move well enough to get hands on this guy. And Gabriel Murphy just does it time after time on third downs and get pressures and sacks on the quarterback. So I love what I see from him, UCLA. They have a big game this weekend too against Oregon State.
Yeah, they we talked about Gabriel Murphy, and I think Grayson Murphy's the other one, and then we talked about Latu earlier. Was it July?
Summer scouting.
Summer scouting.
Yeah.
And I said Grayson is the power guy, while Gabriel is the quick, efficient guy, is what I'm going to call him. And the thing that's interesting about UCLA is that they will play a bunch of different fronts: 5 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, and it doesn't really matter what front they're playing. It's just the way to deploy those guys inside of. Sometimes I hate when they do the 3-down guy, but that seemed to work against Washington State specifically. And Cam Ward, he looked a little lost, man. I hate to reel him back, but he looked a little lost because the spy was waiting on him. He was getting pressure. He was getting moved. It wasn't necessarily, I want to say it was necessarily pressure all the time, but they definitely moved him off his spot consistently, where he just couldn't get comfortable, get the ball out to his guys. And Gabriel Murphy was a big part of that. Like Haley said, line him up over the center to guard, and guys can't get a hold of him. That's something you don't really see in terms of taking a pass rusher who plays maybe on the edge or can drop back. You say, okay, now we're going to put you over the guard, the center, and so you're going to have to deal with some power. You're going to have to deal with some tough guys in here. And he just says, that's fine. I just want to allow him to touch me. That's okay. That's how I win. My game isn't power. You know what I'm saying? So he uses his speed and his quick twitch very, very well. He talked about his hands. Like you said, him and Latu must be in the shop together. They must be doing that Aaron Donald drill with the knives and stuff, bro. You feel me? That's what must be going on over there, man. But yeah, man, he can continue to rise, man. He over there with Latu. Them boys do the work, man. Let's get it.
Joey Nichols, you mentioned Jonah Ellis. I believe he made our studs list a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, his stock is certainly surging as well. Utah's defense, top to bottom. We talk about Cole Bishop. Big fans of Cole Bishop over here. Lot of players helping themselves in Utah. Denzel Burke was a guy that I was kind of keying in last week. Obviously, a lot of fanfare around him. Defensive backs coming from Ohio State. He's supposed to be the guy. I was impressed. I was impressed with what I saw from him. He certainly seems to have taken his game up a notch from one year to the next. So I'm definitely going to continue to watch Burke, but his ability to stay in phase, find the football, play through the receiver's hands was impressive. One of the things that we just don't see a whole lot of these days is guys maintaining their composure at the moment of truth. They get grabby, they lose leverage, they interfere, they hold, panic at the end of the day. They panic. Their eyes get wide and they panic. Certainly this past week and throughout this season, I think Burke is really trusting his technique, trusting his ability, and doing a good job of finding the football, putting himself in a position to make a play on the football. So his stock is definitely up. Going to be a lot of debate around who the top corners are, who cornerback 1 might be. I don't think there's a consensus. I definitely don't think there's a consensus right now. I know Kool-Aid was probably the guy, with Kalen King perhaps being in that mix, but as the season progresses, as guys start moving up the board, and your boy Newton is a guy that you guys like quite a bit here from out of TCU as well. Wiggins, the injury to Wiggins at Clemson hurts him a bit, but I've been impressed with his coverage ability, very sticky in man coverage. Burke certainly has helped himself to this point. DJU.
Oh, I got something on Burke a little bit.
Yeah, I should have known. I should have known. You a corner. I should have known. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a little pushback because I did see him get his head around, but the play right before that, he didn't get his head around, and it was a big defensive pass interference. Yeah. So he's a little inconsistent on it. That was one of my big question marks with him last year, but I did see him a couple plays get his head around. He has great ball skills. He just got to trust his technique better. But with Burke, it's frustrating to watch him because he plays a lot of off-man coverage. He'll mix it up sometimes and get in the receiver's face, but it's like a lot of off-man coverage, a lot of cover three. He gives up a lot of space to wide receivers. I think he could get stronger. He did have a big hit in the game, and they were comparing him to Denzel Ward. Now, he's not Denzel Ward. Even I have my questions about Denzel Ward physicality, but I do think Ward is more physical than Burke. He's a way better cover corner than Burke. I still have questions on Denzel Burke, man. I'm not really ready to give it to him as a top 3 corner in this class. I got to see more from him, but he got the jets. He kind of glides over there. He got the makeup speed ability, so he got a lot of traits that you like from a corner. Exactly. I just think that that off-man zone coverage. Yeah, you see it so much with him, and I'm just not sure about his physicality. And the moment of truth, I think it's a little inconsistent right now with Denzel Burke.
I think my main emphasis here in terms of his stock being up is that you've seen incremental improvement there.
Oh yeah, right? Especially for the beginning of last season.
Yeah. I think we're seeing a player playing with more confidence. There's still work to be done, still stuff to clean up, but certainly his arrow is pointing up. But I certainly understand your concerns regarding Denzel Burke. Do you want to get in there on Denzel Burke?
Yeah, I think we're gonna be all over the place on this guy, bro.
He's a hard evaluation, bro. Because when you're watching him, you kind of watching Josh Proctor, you watching Eichenberg. Yeah. It's like you kind of get bored with Denzel Burke a little bit.
I'll say this: they do play a healthy amount of man and zone at Ohio State, so you actually get I think you get a good look, but for me, I think he actually is better in off coverage than he is in man coverage.
Yeah, that's why he's more comfortable.
And I think that in man coverage, I think he does panic a little too soon for me at times. And it doesn't matter if it's down the field on a vertical route or if it's a horizontal route. And I think he's actually worse if you're going horizontal. I don't know what he's doing. I'm not sure why he's not running with the receiver. It kind of makes me question his speed at times. Because he got beat a couple of times. The ball didn't go to his receiver, didn't go to that receiver, but he got straight up beat a couple times. I think a couple times he got picked off a little bit. But and I did see the play where Haley's talking about where he got beat, pass interference, and then the next play he turned around. So I think it's a little inconsistent in terms of his ability at the moment of truth. But I think he actually may excel in zone coverage, to be honest with you, because I like his ability to come down, click and close. He, like I said, he looks more comfortable in zone where he can see things happening in front of him and react. But yeah, I don't. But he has the ability to play the man coverage.
He's got traits, bro.
Because I think he's very good in getting his hands on the receiver at the line of scrimmage and holding the guy up, right? And I think he's really good in the short to intermediate game when it comes to the physicality. It's just when you go beyond about 8-9 yards, that's where you're starting to like, all right, okay, what is this going to look like? Is the ball going over there? You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I'm gonna keep watching them. The cornerback, talk is gonna be all over the place, I think, because someone tells me they got a consensus number one. We need to have a conversation and a sit down. You got to explain it to me, break it down to me.
Yeah, my 2 favorite is Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kalen King from Penn State. I think those 2 were the top 2 corners in the class. After that, that's when I think it gets a little muddy, man. Like Josh Newton from TCU, we like, and some people have Denzel Burke in their top 5. Right now, I'm still a little hesitant on Burke personally.
I think one of the things that I've noticed over the years since we've been doing this is, we've gotten further and further away from physical, right? The bump and run, a lot of physicality. And I think it's actually refreshing to watch Kansas City and their corners challenge receivers at the line of scrimmage as much as they do. What Spags has them doing is really refreshing. But we've seen it before. We saw it with Trey White. You know what I'm saying? It was a little while ago, but we saw it with Trey White. It was always this off coverage, and it does make the evaluation more challenging because of what's being asked, because of the style of play that a defense is deploying. But that's the silver lining with Denzel Burke, right? We want to continue to see him refine his technique. Landing spot coaching is going to be significant. He possesses the traits. That's going to be what scouts focus on. I think because you don't necessarily see the consistency that you'd like to see, he won't go as high as he potentially could. But it only takes one team. Only takes one team to fall in love with him. And, he has a big game or two against, Michigan or one of those types of that's going to skyrocket his draft stock as well. So I'm going to keep an eye on him as well. Like I said, I like the incremental improvements he's made to this point, but he certainly has more work to do. DJ, go ahead.
No, I'm saying Joey Nichols brought up another one. I know Drew likes Kalen Carson's, also from Wake Forest, physical corner, and TJ Tampa from Iowa State is another physical corner to keep your eye on.
Yeah, we talked about Kalen Carson at length during summer scouting. I'll be perfectly frank, I haven't watched him very closely in season, but as I start to unravel more and more all 22, I'm going to see how he's performed. I know injuries have been a concern with Kalen Carson, so but the skill set is certainly intriguing, and ball skills are impressive as well. Let's get into DJU here, Drew. The Clemson transfer, he's playing better. He's just matriculating the ball, man. It isn't always huge counting numbers. I think he has a healthy TD to INT ratio here, but they're doing good things at Oregon State. What have you liked from him? Where do you think his draft stock is currently?
Because there's so many quarterbacks, man. I think he might be on the back burner.
Let's juxtapose it against what we saw from Clemson.
Oh, I mean, that's easy. They're not asking him to win the football game. They're having him hand the football off. They're having him be efficient. He looked like he's at home in terms of the confidence is up. It's soaring. You're kind of seeing who he is and what he should have been for Clemson, right? This is a team who he'll turn his back to the defense on a play action, turn around and throw the football. This isn't everything's out of the shotgun. His ball placement, bro. There was like 3 or 4 throws in the last game. I forget what they're playing Cal, where he's very good at throwing the ball outside the numbers towards the sideline. I mean, dot after dot after dot, yeah. Man, on point. And so ball placement, he just looks like he's coming into his own. I think he's going to need one more year to keep his stock up, unless he does something crazy over there at Oregon State.
I think with this class, he probably needs to out for 2025.
Right.
Get another season under his belt. Being comfortable there on the West Coast, and of course, things are pointing up. So continue to improve upon his stock. Definitely.
We talked about, I think 2 weeks ago, we talked about Sam Hartman over there for Notre Dame in terms of being in an offense that just kind of restricts you, kind of holds you back because of what they're asking you to do or how the offense works over there at Clemson. We talk about it. They don't use the middle of the field, right? Over here at Oregon State, they're using all parts of the field. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why you would limit yourself and take away 1/2 or a third of the field just so that you can run your plays is absolutely ludicrous to me. And so DJU and also I think it's also the what's his name? What's South Carolina's quarterback's name?
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, the expectations are gone, right? It's just, hey, come over here. We know you can play football. We know you're a good quarterback. So that part of it is gone. So I always say, confidence is a mofo, and you can see it, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. Because I was like, yo, he ain't it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all him though. It wasn't his fault, man. All of it wasn't all him.
Yeah, he just looks a lot more comfortable, in this Oregon State offense. Like Drew said, you see him under center to put his back to the defense. And he's because at Clemson, the question mark was the decisiveness, making decisions quicker. At Oregon State, it's already made for him. They were running the same play pretty much. There's a spider wide banana or with the tight end going out of the flat. Like, what was that play that John Gruden always talked about? Was it the spider wide?
Banana square.
Banana.
Yeah.
They kept on running that play time after time. They got a pretty good tight end over there, number 88, but I just think he's more decisive in this new system. It seems like this playing style is a lot better for him because he has the physicality. Because you saw the opposite half throws. You see that time after time for DJU, but playing under center, with the play action, I think it's just making it a lot simpler for him. Easier reads to find. It's not as complicated. I wouldn't say Clemson offense is complicated, but they were asking him to do things that he wasn't comfortable doing. he's a lot more comfortable in this Oregon State offense.
Yeah, conceptually, what Clemson does offensively doesn't make any sense. That's the difference. That's the difference, bro. It's like the Mike McCarthy offense, bro. Like
Terrible.
Like you have to understand that there was a change. There was a change between what they were doing with Deshaun Watson and then Trevor Lawrence, right? They fell in love with everything outside the numbers, with the big receivers. You know, you had the Justin Ross doing his thing, like they T. Higgins. They fell in love with that. They truly did, and they basically vacated anything across the middle. You know, in between the hashes. You know how wide the hashes are at the collegiate level. You know, and the problem is that you spider to wide banana. The problem is that you don't have any solutions built into the concepts, to the plays. So what happens is now that you're asking DJU, who's not as talented as Watson or Trevor Lawrence, to bail you out, right? Because there's no embedded solutions within the structure, within the play design. And as a result, you see him, you know, forcing things or taking sacks when he shouldn't be taking sacks, not seeing things, not trusting what he's seeing, there not being anything available to him. You understand what I'm saying? And then, of course, when you're not having success, your confidence levels tend to drop, and then your play, you know, proportionally dwindles. So I think, just as you mentioned, being in a system that's a little bit more, you know, developed, for lack of a better term, more quarterback friendly, certainly has helped his confidence. And now you're getting to see some of that physical ability take over. I mean, he's 6'4", listed 6'4", 250, right? Big arm. We knew that about him. Now you're getting to see him do that. And I think watching him under center and being able to play action tends to clear that picture up even more, right? And when you do a hard play action from under center, most college defenses don't know what to do with that. They don't understand it. They don't know, you know, how to read their keys so that they don't get sucked up and out of position. So yeah, I think he certainly made the right decision transferring, and he's playing well. And I think, you know, if he continues to do so over the course of another season, he could, you know, certainly help himself quite a bit as far as NFL draft stock is concerned. All right. Kamani Vidal is our next player here in the stock up segment. Running back from Troy. He's the FBS leading rusher. All right.
Peace.
He's pacing everybody. And right behind him is our guy, Jonathan Brooks from Texas. So Vidal doing work for the Troy Trojans. Hadley, Drew, your thoughts on him? What have you seen from Kamani?
I watched a little bit of him. Very compact runner, 5'8", 215, very low center of gravity, strong lower body. You know, he breaks a lot of tackles. You can see it on him. When you watch him, it's like, all right, he got that strong lower body and he could break tackles, pause. But, you know, appears to have that nose for the end zone also. You know, I think he has over like 20 touchdowns in his career. And Troy O-line, man, they were just opening up gaping holes for him. He took advantage. But I do want to give him credit. He was very decisive. Made himself look made himself small in that hole. He does that a lot, where he kind of like goes and glides through the hole, and defenders don't really see him coming. He has a vision also to bounce the runs outside. He did it time after time in that last game. They didn't contain him on the edge. There was no containment out there, and he got out there. He was clocked at 21.3 miles per hour. So he shows the speed, and 240-yard games so far this season, man. He's having a big season. Like you said, he's the leader, FBS rushing leader with 835 yards.
Yep, 1,100 yards a season ago and double-digit TDs on the ground. So certainly he's picked up where he's left off and then some, right? He's averaging almost 2 more yards per carry than he did a season ago. So nice work from Vidal. Our last player here, and again, there were a lot of players who have helped themselves over the course of the last several weeks, and certainly week 6 in college football. We got Ricardo Hallman here, corner from Wisconsin. And you talk about, you know, having those eyes on the quarterback. He actually is tied for the FBS lead in interceptions with 4. He's getting his hands on the football. He had a pick 6 this past week. You know, he from the dirty. He's from the dirty South.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know, the state of Miami. So your thoughts on Hallman? What have you seen from him thus far?
How did Miami let him out, bro?
Well, you know how that go.
No,
Can't keep them all, bro. You can't keep them all. Plus, they sucked last year and the year before that. So, what can you do?
True. This is true. Hallman is physical corner. I like his ability to turn and run, locate the football. As a guy who's going to attack the football, obviously he's got is that 12 solo tackles, so there is no fear about guys coming around the corner on him. He's willing and able to stick his head in there. You know, I love that about a corner. I think he plays bigger than his size. I mean, he's 5'10", was at 185. To me, look about 6'1", about 218 pounds. No, I'm just kidding. About 208. You know what I'm saying? But we consistently talk about the corner position. We consistently talk about the running back position. I think those are two positions in this upcoming draft where it's going to kind of be. It's kind of I don't know who's going to take it. I don't know who. You know what I mean? So I think he's another guy that's kind of throws his hat in the ring, and a guy that's we're going to continue to watch. I don't know who they have left on the schedule. I don't know if Wisconsin plays Ohio State this year, but if they do, that's definitely going to be a matchup between him and Marvin Harrison or Ibuka. I think Ibuka got hurt, didn't he? I think he got hurt in that last game, if I'm not mistaken. So, but yeah.
Go ahead, Headley.
No, I was going to talk about Hallman, man. I think you said it, Drew. This ball hawking ability. You know, you see it time to time. Big Ten leader in interceptions before. Very instinctive corner, man. Like he's not getting fooled out there. It was a play. They ran the post, and he kind of, left the post guy to safety. He peeled off of him to the deep crosser. Yeah. Stepped in front of the ball, intercepted the ball, and his pick six that was 95 yards kind of did the same thing. They had an interview with him after the game, and he was like, "Yo, I was watching the tape, and I kind of seen what that team liked to do along the goal line." And the receiver did a drag route, and it was a guy leaking out into the flat. He jumped the route again. So the instincts and the ball hawking ability, man, you see it on tape with Ricardo Hallman time after time.
Yeah, preparation goes a long way. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the reason why he continues to find himself in position to make plays on the football. And, of course, we love guys who can turn the football over. All right. That's going to do it for both Stock Up and the Studs of the Week. Of course, we'll be back next week to do it all over again. But before we wrap things up, we have to preview. We have to preview the game of the week between Oregon and Washington. Big time matchup in the Pac-12. We got quarterbacks, we got receivers, we got some defensive players. Man, we got a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
we got a little bit of everything in this matchup. So I want to unpack it. I want to spend whatever time we need to spend unpacking this, talking about the matchup in of itself, as well as the NFL draft prospects in this contest. I imagine there are going to be a lot of scouts attending this particular matchup. And Bo Nix and Michael Penix are going to have an opportunity here to really solidify their draft stock. I think obviously their arrows are pointing up. Bo Nix could force his way into the first round. I think Penix is absolutely in the first round. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But as we patiently or not so patiently wait for this game tomorrow, what are your thoughts? And I'll start with you, Drew.
This is going to be interesting because the Oregon, they haven't necessarily asked Bo Nix to go out there and win them a football game. Like the defense has played so well for Oregon, and the offensive line is them boys monsters out there. As far as I know, they still haven't given up a sack. I could be wrong. Somebody hit me down in the comment section. They haven't given up a sack, but this may be one of those games where they may have to ask Bo Nix. He may have to do a little bit more in this football game in terms of passing the football. Because I know as a runner, he's pretty good as a runner as well. But it's like you said, there's a whole lot of players in this football game, and on both sides of the football, Washington, they like to throw the football all over the yard. What does that look like versus Oregon defense? Is Dan Lanning, right? That's the coach over there. Dan Lanning's defense. This might be the matchup where I may be the most excited. One, it's my team Washington. I'm gonna coin them. That's my team Washington. My West Coast team. Yeah, my West Coast. Yeah. Let me do it that way. My West Coast team in Washington. And you got Oregon, who I'm just kind of I'm not fully sold on them yet, because I don't think they've necessarily played anybody that's kind of rocked the boat or let me say it this way, that has punched them in the mouth. They haven't been punched in the mouth yet. So I want to see what happens when they get, because they're going to get punched in the mouth. Oh, best believe Washington going to punch them in the mouth because they got guys over there that I love for Washington. I guess we'll get to the guys here in a second. But just in terms of the matchup, I want to see what Oregon does and how they respond, because Washington has been punched in the mouth a couple of times this year, and they've responded with, we just going to score points.
Yeah, it's a lot of individual matchups, man. Like you said, a lot of scouts going to be in the house. And, you know, the big marquee is the quarterbacks, of course, with Bo Nix and Michael Penix. But then you got the receivers, you know, going against Kyrie Jackson. We're going to see what Kyrie Jackson's all about this week against really these guys with Rome, McMillan, Jalen Polk, and those guys. You got Troy Fontenot for Washington. You know, he's going against Birch and Dorless, two great pass rushers over there. So, man, you got your boy Troy Franklin. You know, everybody saying, "Hey, don't forget about me.
Forget about Troy Franklin.
Don't forget about me." I know all the receivers are over there on the other side, but don't forget about me. So, yeah, man, it's just a lot of prospects, a lot of individual matchups in this game. I'm gonna love to see it. This is the game. West Coast is where it's at right now, man. This Pac-12. This was the final year of the Pac-12. Is that what's going on? So, you know, it's going to be a good one, man. Oregon and Washington. I expect, you know, Michael Penix, man. This is a Heisman game right here, man. If he goes out there and throws over 400 yards, 4 to 5 TDs, he might jump Caleb Williams as the Heisman favorite because, you know, Oregon, they got a really good defense. They get after it in the trenches. So we'll see if Michael Penix could elude those rushers because he's been doing a lot better job of moving his feet and finding those wide receivers down the field. Man, Kyrie Jackson is who I'm really looking at right now, though, against those receivers.
This game was crazy last year, too. I think it went down to the wire, if I'm not mistaken, or someone pulled away very, very late because of a turnover or something.
It was a good game last year as well.
Yeah, it was. So I expect it to even be even better this year. Absolutely.
You know, one of the things that may not necessarily get as much attention because you got so much going on in terms of the quarterbacks, and then you got great matchups on the perimeter. You mentioned Jordan Birch and Brandon Dorless on the defensive side of the ball for Oregon. Oregon's offensive line, you talked about how they've kept Bo Nix clean. The offensive line and Bucky Irvin, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, that combination right there is what could potentially neutralize.
I would agree.
Not neutralize, but certainly slow down the Huskies' very potent offensive attack as well, right? You know, the best defense I would imagine in this game is keeping Michael Penix and his receivers on the sideline, right? Keeping them off the field, limiting the amount of snaps that they ultimately get. So Bucky Irving is a guy that, you know, I think a lot of people in the scouting community like. They don't necessarily view him as, you know, your prototypical lead back, of course, but certainly what he's been able to do behind a very good collective in terms of Oregon's offensive line, that group could go a long way. That combination, that battery could go a long way in determining the outcome of this game. So I'll be paying attention to that. As much as I want to talk about the quarterbacks, focus on them and the receiver prospects and so on and so forth, as far as the game and what it hinges on, I think the team that protects the football, scores touchdowns as opposed to field goals in the red zone, and is able to actually establish the running game probably wins this. So that's the only reason why I'm giving Oregon a very slight edge. But, man, Michael Penix and his crew is they tough, man. They are tough, and I'm looking forward to this one. I have no dog in the fight, so I'm just gonna enjoy this one as a football fan. All right. Any final thoughts on Oregon, Washington, or anything we've discussed to this point? What did we miss? Did we miss anything?
Well, let me just run down all the players real quick for these teams. You have Rome Odunze. This is Washington receivers. Rome Odunze. You have Jalen. Bro, how many Jalens is there, bro? He spells his name completely different than I've ever seen. Jalen Polk, number 2. You got Jalen McMillan, number 11. Y'all know Rome is number 1. You have, obviously, Michael Penix as the quarterback. You have Braylon Trice as edge. You have, we call him ZTF. We got Zion.
Braylon Trice got to shut down Bucky Irvin in that run game. I think he's going to be the guy.
He's going to be the guy. You got ZTF. You got Zion Tuapololu for Tui. I don't know if I said that right.
Oh, yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it, Drew.
Let's get it. We got my guy who I completely forgot he played for this team, Jabbar Muhammad. I was talking about him last year, but he transferred over. I think he's from Oklahoma State, if I'm not mistaken, or Oregon State. Is it? I forget. Let me check. It's Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Gotcha.
And then on the other side, let me get to the other side, or the other side. Let me get to the other team. Give me a second. Where they at? There they go.
Oregon.
The Dukes. We got Troy Franklin, receiver, fast, big. Don't forget about him. Bucky Irvin, we said. Bo Nix out there. Let me see here. You got Jordan Birch. You got Brandon Dorless. You got Kyrie Jackson. Just to name a few guys to be on the lookout for. There's probably I imagine there's going to be some guys that are going to come up. Maybe make some plays in that we're forgetting about here that are going to come up and we're going to end up talking about them.
Evan Williams, the safety over there too.
Yep.
He makes a lot of plays. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I had planned for us to get into PFF's midseason report, but we're gonna save that for next week. We'll save that for next week. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, interacting with us. David, Joey, Jake, always a pleasure. Everybody who's lurking. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Check out that promo code. I've noticed some of you leveraging that promo code. Get your money. Get your money. Underdog Fantasy.
Some of us out here winning for real.
For real. That boy Drew. Drew got something going over there.
It's dark over there.
I figured out the formula, bro. I think I got it.
So definitely take advantage of that. Link in the description. Use promo code CPGM to 2x your first deposit up to $100. All right. And of course, you deposit $100, you get $200. That's how that works. 2x, 2 times multiplication. All right. For Headley, Drew, this is Juice. We'll see you guys next week.